A similar theme to yesterday's story. Perla Cohen is one of the many Bali Tshuva of the Shluchim in Lyon, France, the Gurevich couple. Now, when she began her first steps in Yiddishkeit, she was a student studying economics in the big university in Lyon. So she used to attend, as other students did, a class that Rabbi Gurevich gave on the campus once a week. Her family didn't live in Lyon, so she was invited to Shabbos to the Gurevich home, where she established a connection with Mrs. Gurevich, and this developed over time. It was a very long process of her involvement in Yiddishkeit. It was deliberate, but very over a long period of time. And even though she would attend all the shiurim, any change in her life came deliberately and slowly. From one mitzvah to the other was a long period. So finally, she reached the point that she's ready to put up a mezuzah on the door. And he adds that this story took place when the Rebbe came out with the mezuzah campaign, which was the first of the campaigns in the early 70s. So Mrs. Gurevich suggested that she put a mezuzah at the doorway of her studio, and she agreed. However, it didn't last very long. And a few weeks later, Perla takes it down. Her friends who would come to visit her told her that's a Jewish girl alone here in this French town, making a public statement that she's Jewish is just asking for trouble these days. So not a good idea. And she took down the mezuzah. Now, a few weeks later, she comes one day back to an apartment, and she finds on the door a note from the post office notifying her that a package had come, but since she wasn't home, it was given to someone who lives on the third floor of this apartment building, which is above her. So she goes to the neighbor, a fellow in his 70s, to get the package. And he tells her that he was walking up the stairs, and he was there when the postman came. And so he agreed to take the package, and that's why she got this note. He gives it to her, and she says, thank you. And she's about to leave, and he says to her, and to her surprise, Shalom. She says, you're Jewish? He says, yes. And could I ask you something? He says, why 2 weeks ago did you take down the mezuzah from your apartment? She's like shocked with the question. And she starts to say, for safety reasons, I didn't feel that it was, it was the right thing to do. Have a mezuzah. She says, I want to tell you a story. This is in the early 70s. He says, I'm a survivor. I lost in the Holocaust my family, wife, my children. I ran away from Yiddishkeit from then as much as possible. No Yom Kippur. I ate non-kosher, he said pork. And I searched in the city here, a place that would be as far as possible from the Jewish part of town. I don't want to even encounter, Jews. Now, a month ago, the elevator broke, as you might recall, which I used every day to get to my apartment on the third floor. So I had to walk. And I'm going up from the ground floor to the first floor, and I see the mezuzah on your door. It's 30 years I have not seen a mezuzah. And all of a sudden I'm swept back in one moment, decades to my past, and memories of my childhood flood me. And he says, they cut me. I stood there for a half an hour facing the mezuzah, touching it and crying like a small child, inconsolably. He says, from that day, I stopped using the elevator and I would take the steps each day, walking up and down, and just to be able to stand for a few moments, to look at your mezuzah and to kiss it and to connect to my childhood, my thoughts. And to me, this was my connection to Judaism that was so precious to me. And to my shock and disappointment, 2 weeks ago, the mezuzah is not there anymore. And with that, it seems my lifeline to my Yiddishkeit was taken from me. End of story. So he just adds that these two souls ended up, of course, she told the story, she put it back, she told the story to the Shliach, and Rabbi Gurevich, and Perla Cohen, he says in the interim since the story, is a married Baal Tshuva, a Chassid, who has built a beautiful home, a Chassidic home, and the name here, he calls him Avram Lundert. That was his name, Avram Lundert. I'm sure he's not alive anymore. Who was then 70 years old, who began in the merit of this mezuzah to live again and reconnect, which he did through the Gureviches, and it all started through that story that you just heard. Huh?
Where did that take place?
In Lyon.
All right.
Have a wonderful day, everybody.